Ukraine is accusing Russia of attacking a theater that was being used as a bomb shelter in the besieged port city of Mariupol. Ukrainian officials say more than 1,000 civilians were in the theater when it was hit. Satellite images taken by private U.S. companies show the word children written on the ground in large white letters on both sides of the building. Russia denies carrying out the attack and says it does not target civilians. We can go to our correspondent, Alexandra von Namen, now. She is in the city of Lviv in western Ukraine for us. Hi, Alexandra. We have been hearing these increasing reports of civilian targets being hit. What more can you tell us?
Well, images that were published by the Ukrainian authorities and other sources show the extensive damage to this drama theater in Mariupol, with the city officials saying that Russia dropped a bomb on the theater where hundreds, up to 1,200 people were sheltering at this time. We do not have any information how many people were killed or injured. We have to say that according to the mayor of the city, the entrance of this building is blocked by rubble, and we also have to stress that the city is under near constant bombardment. So the situation there is very difficult. Russia, as you just mentioned, has denied that it was them, saying instead, without any evidence, that the Azov Battalion, a far-right paramilitary group that is part of the Ukrainian National Guard, is to be blamed. However, we have to question whether they would have such a military capability to launch such a strike. And we also have to stress that in this war, Russia has been systematically targeting civilian areas, hospitals, schools. And to give you a better understanding what it looks like on the ground, we visited the city of Zhytomyr. Here's our report. Residential houses reduced to rubble, people mourning the loss of their loved ones. This is a neighborhood in Zhytomyr, a city around 150 kilometers west of Kiev that has been under constant shelling since the beginning of Russia's war on Ukraine.
This is where we met Sehi, whose house was completely destroyed by Russian missiles.
The bombs dropped and everything exploded. We just made it out.
His 29-year-old daughter, however, was killed on the spot. Sehi appears calm and withdrawn. It seems like he's still not able to process what happened.
The night before, we were sitting together. She said, "Daddy, you have a difficult personality, but I'm just like you." That's what she told me before she died. Those words remain in my heart.
Just down the street, a hospital. A missile narrowly missed the building. Dr. Olesh tells us he's still shocked. While we are talking, the air raid alarm goes off again.
It's something we'd never seen before. It's war, a war waged on a civilian population. We're seeing that more civilians are being killed in Ukraine than soldiers.
Zhytomyr, just 150 kilometers away from the heavy fighting in Kiev, has become a transit point for aid deliveries to the capital and refugees fleeing the region. We met with the mayor Sehi Suhomlin. His staff told us he's so busy he hardly sleeps.
Putin's approach to the cities that don't give in is to intimidate us, to break our will, but he's achieving the opposite. People are uniting.
The mayor shows us components of the missiles that hit the city. One of the targets, he says, was a school in the city center. The building is heavily damaged. Fortunately, there were no kids here when the attack happened. Back at the ruins of Sehi's house. He lost so much, and yet he says he doesn't hate the people of Russia.
The ordinary people are not to blame. It's their leadership.
Sehi wants to rebuild his house as soon as possible, but first, he says, we need peace.
Alexandra, you are now back in Lviv, and that's a place where people had been fleeing to for safety. What are things like there now?
Well, almost every night we have air raid alarms going off at dawn, to be specific, so people don't sleep at all or much, and they are on edge a bit. But during the day, they're of course trying to continue with their lives the best they can. They have to get food, they have to earn some money, and many of them are trying to organize help for those who are still in the central or eastern part of the country. This city has become an important hub for aid deliveries heading eastward, but also, of course, for the many refugees that are still arriving here, fleeing the fighting in the eastern part of Ukraine. And some of them then travel on to cross the border into Poland and then to travel to other European countries as well.
Meanwhile, Alexandra, we've been hearing these cautious tones of optimism from both Russian and Ukrainian negotiators about making progress towards finding some sort of agreement. How optimistic are people there?
Well, people are, of course, hoping that there will be peace, that this nightmare will be over soon. However, there is a deep mistrust. They don't trust anything that the Russian government is saying or promising. However, when we look at the authorities, they are, or the Ukrainian and the Russian government officials, they are both sides are saying that their progress has been made and that there is room for compromises, with the Ukrainian president indicating that Russia has softened its stance on Ukraine, that Russia doesn't demand anymore that Ukraine surrender. But of course, as it seems, both sides are still far apart with regards to their positions.
DW's Alexander van Namen reporting for us from Lviv. Good to talk to you. Now to some other developments in the conflict. The United Nations top court has ordered Russia to immediately halt its invasion of Ukraine. In the largely symbolic ruling, the International Court of Justice said it's seen no evidence to support the war. Moscow claims Ukraine is carrying out genocide against Russian speakers in the east of the country. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg says the alliance has no plans to intervene on the ground in Ukraine, and he once again ruled out setting up and policing a no-fly zone. He also said he is encouraged by progress reported at talks between Russian and Ukrainian negotiators. Russian President Vladimir Putin has given a new televised address threatening Russians who align themselves with the West and calling them scum and traitors. Putin also denounced Western sanctions on Russia and said his invasion of Ukraine, which he calls a military operation, is going to plan. One of Russia's most famous rappers has taken a very public stand against the war. Oxymiron has shelved 6 sold-out concerts in Russia in protest.